This is the morning brief from the Economic Times.
Last Thursday evening, November 18, PM Narendra Modi gave an unprecedented response to an unprecedented movement that has been roiling in northern India for the last 1 year.
साथियों, मैं आज देशवासियों से क्षमा मांगते हुए सच्चे मन से और पवित्र हृदय से कहना चाहता हूं कि शायद हमारी तपस्या में ही कोई कमी रही होगी, जिसके कारण दिए के प्रकाश जैसा सत्य कुछ किसान भाइयों को हम समझा नहीं पाए।
A few seconds after this apology came the announcement. The government repealed the 3 contentious farm laws that had triggered the historic and some say biggest farmer protests in global history. The news has received widespread reactions. Some have hailed it as the success of a people's revolution and the victory of democracy. Others have called it a rare sign of weakness from a political leader that rarely backtracks on his statements and decisions. For instance, this is how lawyer and social activist Avik Saha, our first guest in this episode, reacted.
That's the most arrogant apology I have heard in my life. What the Prime Minister said was, it's a good law. I failed to explain it to a small section of farmers, and hence I am withdrawing it. I'm sorry, but it's your fault. It's your mistake.
My colleague and ET's political reporter Kumar Anshuman had a more tempered reaction. Also considering the BJP is gearing up for assembly elections in 7 Indian states next year.
I would see it as a course correction. In the pulse of a moment, things have changed. The entire things have changed. Now the opposition in election-bound states which were attacking the government on farmers, farm laws and all those things, they'll have to redraw their strategies.
Many others, like our third guest, agricultural economist Ashok Gulati, have said the decision has, at least for now, left the agriculture sector bereft of much-needed reforms.
I think they should have done better communication with the farmers. They are the major stakeholders in the game. It was for their benefit. So agriculture will keep on moving at a pace it was moving before these things. Only thing, the potential impact of what these central reforms wanted, that may not be forthcoming.
What are the 3 farm laws? What are the economic and political repercussions of cancelling them? Does it give the BJP the much-needed edge in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab? And what's ailing India's agriculture sector and how can reforms be better structured? Most importantly, what about the poorer, more marginalized Indian farmers who actually need reforms? Where do they stand in this? All this and much more in today's episode. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of November. I'm your host, Anirban Chowdhury, and you're listening to The Morning Brief. As always, let's get into a little bit of background. Between September 17th and 20th last year, the 3 farm bills were passed in Parliament amidst a clamour of protest from the opposition. What are they? Let's see. Law 1. Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Services Act, which basically facilitates contract farming and allows farmers to get into direct business contracts with agriculture businesses, read big corporations such as Adani Wilmar, for pre-agreed prices. The government's logic? Market forces instead of mandis and middlemen will give better prices to farmers for their crops. Farmers' contention? This would eliminate the minimum support price or a guaranteed price for their produce. Also, that they would now be exploited by said big corporate houses. Law 2. Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act. That eases interstate sale of farm produce with some tax incentives. Farmer speak? Travel and logistics costs of taking the produce to other states would outweigh the benefits. One rule that all disputes between farmers would be settled by a subdivisional magistrate also seems to have irked the farmers. Law 3. Essential Commodities Amendment Act. This was to remove the government's power in controlling stocks of essential food items. This one didn't face any opposition from the farmers. Now, there have been peasant movements in India before, typically against taxation and exploitation. The Bardoli Satyagraha, led by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Bijolia movement in Rajasthan, and the Tebhaga movement in Bengal are some examples. But none was fought as long and as hard as this.
ਬਦਲਾ ਲੈਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੇਰੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਕਰਤੂਤਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਦਲਾ ਲੈਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੇਰੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਕਰਤੂਤਾਂ ਦਾ ਚੜ ਕੇ ਘੋੜਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਸੰਗਮੀ ਕਨੇਰ ਤੂੰ ਆਏ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਸਗ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਰੋਈ ਰੱਬ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਢਾ ਕੇ ਕਿਲੇ ਬਣਾਏ
ਹਾਲਾਤੀ ਬੈਠਾ ਹੀ ਕੁਝ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਕਰਤੂਤਾਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਗਾਲਾਂ ਪੈਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰੁਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਰਿਸ਼ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਰੋਕੇਗੀ ਗਰਮੀ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਹਿੱਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਪਾਣੀ ਸੋਕੇਗੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੱਥ ਜੜਵਾ ਕੇ ਛੱਡਾਂਗੇ ਹੱਥ ਹੋਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਜੁੜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੂੰ ਤਗੜਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਵਰ ਬਦਲਾ ਤੂੰ ਤਗੜਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਵਰ ਬਦਲਾ ਰੁੜ ਜਾਾਂਗੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਮੁੜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਰੁੜ ਜਾਾਂਗੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਮੁੜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਰੁੜ ਜਾਾਂਗੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਮੁੜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ
ਬੋਲੇ ਸੋ ਨਿਹਾਲ
The movement started in the last week of September 2020, even as the bills became laws with the Indian president's final nod. The first event to shake the rest of the country awake happened on November 26, almost exactly a year ago, when farmers marching towards Delhi faced water cannons from police authorities in failed attempts to disperse them. Over the last 1 year, this has snowballed into a historic movement. Arguably, like I said, the biggest in world history and one of its kind. Thousands of farmers, 35 farmer unions, 31 from Punjab alone, participated in the protests. The protests were strongest in Punjab and western UP, but farmers from Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Odisha also showed their solidarity. Even as the second phase of the COVID-19 pandemic led to record deaths in the country, this movement too claimed more than 700 lives, including by suicide. Now, PM Modi has backtracked on a move before. In 2014, he proposed changes in land acquisition rules but had to abandon them because of political pressures. But never has it been so public and so prominent.
Mark my words, take it from me. These laws, the government will be forced to take them back.
The laws were in effect for a total of 221 days. Does their removal cover all the demands of the farmers? No. The most contentious demand, that of legalizing the minimum support price or MSP, remains. PM Modi in his speech did speak about the formation of a committee to make MSP more effective, but not everyone is convinced.
तो ऐसे कोई घर के बाहर नहीं बैठा है किसान कि दिल्ली ने कह दिया और हम चले गए कि किसी के रहमो करम पर आंदोलन चल रहा। ये आंदोलन देश का किसान चला रहा है। जब तक उसको कागज पत्र नहीं मिलेंगे ये आंदोलन खत्म नहीं होगा। एमएसपी का गारंटी कानून।
That was Rakesh Tikait of UP's Bharatiya Kisan Union, who's been quite a newsmaker in these protests. Saha says that while the government has removed what the farmers do not want, it hasn't made any assurance on giving what the farmers do want.
The critical core demand of the farmers remains unattended. And the Prime Minister made some vague references to a committee which would look into organic farming and so on and so forth. But he did not clearly mention about either a law to guarantee minimum support price or even a committee that would create such a law. This is, in a sense, a letdown. This is an incomplete agenda so far as the farmers' movement is concerned.
Union leaders like Tikait say that MSP is a legal right and the farmers' one shield against possible exploitation by corrupt traders or corporates. But is it really the holy grail for farmers? Not so. First of all, let's remember not all farmers sell their crops at MSP. According to a survey of more than 5,000 farmers across 18 states done by a digital news magazine called Gaon Connection, about 75% of farmers in Punjab and Haryana sell their produce at MSP rates. That percentage for a state like Bihar is just 26. The comfort that MSP gives to some and on some crops leads to a massive problem of overproduction. Punjab, for instance, produces wheat that is in high surplus. Its MSP is at least 40% higher than global average prices of the crop.
Many of the farmers are talking about is MSP and raise MSP more and more. That temporarily can give some higher income to some farmers, but if that model is expanded, it can lead to a huge economic disaster. I'll give you one example. At present, the MSP system works primarily for wheat and rice and very seldom for other crops, a little bit here and there. Wheat and rice also, wheat is procured primarily from three and a half states of India, Punjab, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, and then a little bit from here or there, UP, Western UP. But look at the buffer stocks with the Food Corporation of India. Today, as on 1st of October, Food Corporation of India's buffer stock norm is 31 million tons. But what they are holding was 81 million tons. This 50 million tons of extra stock at their economic costs about more than 150,000 crores, 150,000 crores. This money is dead weight loss in the economy.
So basically, there is surplus stock far in excess of domestic demand. The Food Corporation of India buys that excess stock and a lot of it goes to waste in its granaries. Moreover, the FCI spends crores of rupees on the procurement and raises massive amounts of debt for it. A recent report said India's food subsidy bill for the year 2020-21 touched a record high of 5 trillion rupees. Why? Because the government had to repay FCI's debt areas of 2 trillion rupees. So who's paying for it? You and I. In a nutshell, we are paying for tons of food that we don't even consume. Let's look at another example.
A larger part of commodities like rice, paddy, and all that, which are bought in Punjab and Haryana by the government, that is not being bought by the government at all. And therefore, what we are doing is that we pick up rice from Punjab and dump it in Bihar or Eastern UP through the public distribution system at 2 rupees or 3 rupees a kg. And half of that leaks away in the market. So it depresses the market prices in Bihar and Eastern UP.
On the other hand, there are middlemen who buy crops at cheap rates in states such as Bihar and sell them at higher prices, usually MSP rates in Punjab and Haryana. A quintal of paddy sells at the MSP rates of 1,888 rupees in Punjab, while the same crop sells for 800 to 900 rupees in Bihar. There have been several instances of seizures of such smuggled crops. Also, there are serious environmental concerns of overproducing these crops.
The other is by overproducing, say, rice in Punjab, the water table is depleting so fast by more than 1 feet a year. And in central Punjab, even almost a meter a year. That is the rate of depletion, which is environmental disaster. And when they produce rice with total flooding of continuous irrigation, 25 irrigations they give, they produce a lot of methane. And methane is 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide that they are emitting into the environment. And then later on they do stubble burning of the whatever is left on the field.
Okay, so what about the other debate that the farm laws or reforms just shift the exploitation of farmers from crafty middlemen to a handful of big corporates? To be sure, the biggest corporate names, including the Adani Group, are making a huge foray into agriculture. The food processing industry is estimated at 2.6 trillion rupees, and companies such as Nestle, ITC, Parle Products, Britannia, Hindustan Unilever, Amul, Adani, and PepsiCo have been waiting for the farm laws to make it easier for them to source directly from farmers. In other words, cheaper. A recent ET story quoted Anshu Malik, the CEO of India's biggest edible oil producer Adani Wilmar, as saying the new laws would have definitely been good for his company and many others. Professor Gulati tells me agriculture is already the biggest private sector enterprise in the country, and their participation is required to build better value chains, supply management systems, and most importantly, storage facilities. Okay, we'll come back to this in a while. Let's now get into the political aspect of this decision. Like I said, a total of 7 states, UP, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Manipur, Goa, Gujarat, and Himachal Pradesh are going in for assembly elections next year. The BJP hope for the latest decision to give it an advantage in at least 2 states, UP and Punjab. Now, the BJP doesn't have a stronghold in Punjab. Its hold further weakened last year when in September, its oldest ally in the state, the popular Shiromani Akali Dal, walked out of the National Democratic Alliance opposing the farm bills. The big fight in the state is actually between the ruling party, Congress, which is battling strong anti-incumbency sentiments, and the Aam Aadmi Party, which has been gaining in some parts recently. Naturally, both these parties supported the farmers' protests. The repealing of these farm laws is BJP's last-ditch effort at gaining some ground in the state ahead of the polls.
This at least gives a chance for the BJP to get an opening in Punjab, and there also you might have heard or you might have read that former Congress leader Captain Amrinder Singh is already in talks with the BJP for a coalition, for an alliance. So there BJP will go in alliance with Captain Amrinder Singh with a goodwill that now we have taken back the bills and they have some chance to just do a better performance.
That was Anshuman again. While that's the Punjab story, the biggest political play is in the country's most populous state, Uttar Pradesh.
If you see the past 2-3 elections, right from 2014, BJP has been doing excellent in all these regions, in West UP, in East UP and other parts of the UP. In last assembly election 2017, BJP won almost all seats. Out of 77, BJP won 52 seats. That's a huge number out of West UP. The 2019 election came, but Pulwama happened and West UP again voted for the BJP in large numbers.
The power play here is in Western UP and its Jat community. Now, Anshuman tells me that the Jats and Muslims have historically been united in their voting preference and in the past have voted for parties such as Lokdal. Their unity disintegrated after the deadly Muzaffarnagar communal riots in 2013. The BJP used it to its advantage to make inroads into the Jat vote bank, which helped it to win seats in the years that Anshuman just mentioned. But that flipped after the farm bills were passed.
Jats constitute a good number of voters, especially in the Western UP region, around 7 to 8% or 9% vote, which was supporting for BJP in 2014, 2017, and 2019. Especially after Muzaffarnagar riots that took place before 2014. The major part of that was the youth of the Jat was with the BJP. This time when I traveled in parts of Western UP, I found out that these youths are now supporting the farmers movement, the farmers protest sitting at Ghazipur. They are supplying milk, they are carrying water, they are carrying food on their tractors to that protest site regularly. So that youth which diverted the Jat's votes towards the BJP, that Jat youth is this time, a section of that youth is missing. That is against the BJP. In the current scenario, there is some sense of Jat Muslim unity coming back to the ground, which when I traveled, I found out. How much will it work during the election, that is yet to be seen. But that is also leading to consolidation of non-Jat OBCs like Kashyaps, like Sanis, like Pasis, like Kurmis, all these castes which are non-Jats, Gujars, they're all consolidating their support for the BJP. In upper caste, Tyagi, Brahmin, Rajputs, they all are siding with the BJP.
So, on one hand is the Jat Muslim community against the BJP, and just like yin and yang, in this case not complementary but opposing forces, the other non Jat communities are consolidating in support of the BJP. Interesting.
The worry for the BJP is that the Muslims were divided between Samajwadi Party, BSP and Congress. Now Muslims seem to be united with Samajwadi Party, 29%, huge number, and if Jats also combine them, so together 36% out of those 36%, if the opposition meant Samajwadi Party RLD manages to get say 30% also, that would be a huge number. That will make an impact on several number of seats. So that is the main worry for the BJP, and that's why the party is working on the ground to woo the Jat community to come towards their side in large numbers.
What Anshuman is saying is that Jats constitute 7 to 9% of the voter population, while Muslims are another 29% in Western UP. So, with the farm law repeal, the BJP is actually targeting 36% of Western UP. That's enough politics. Let's shift to the people who are at the core of this issue, the farmers. Here's a not so fun fact. There's no accurate data for the number of farmers in this country. Last year, the government counted 14.5 crore families while provisioning for the PM Kisan scheme. So let's work with that. The small and marginal farmers own less than 5 acres or 2 hectares, and the other segment owns more. 1 hectare is slightly less than the size of 2 football fields. Now, the majority of farmers in India, over 78%, are actually small and marginal, and they are very, very far from financial well-being.
In 2016, Mr. Narendra Modi said that I am going to launch schemes which will lead to doubling of income of farmers in 6 years. That period will end in February 2022. Throughout these 6 years, we've asked him to give us some kind of statistical, neutral, non-biased information about what has actually been achieved in this front. Until now, we have no information. Small sample surveys show income has actually gone down.
In a recent piece, Gulati wrote that the monthly average income of a farmer household in India right now is 13,500 rupees. That isn't a happy number, and what's more, it's unlikely to improve soon.
The fact is that the holding size in the country is only 0.9 hectare. Now, in 0.9 hectare, if you are producing rice or wheat or coarse cereals or so-called nutri-cereals nowadays, maize or pearl millet or anything, these staples cannot give you higher income at the level of productivity where you are. So forget about that. Now, with that story, I think there is no way you can increase the farmer's income. Only way is through diversification, moving towards high-value agriculture.
There have been incentive schemes, not all of them successful.
In April 2016, he launched the crop insurance, the silver bullet, so to say, for Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, and he said that all losses henceforth will be adequately compensated. The fate of that scheme is that even his own state, Gujarat, has abandoned that scheme.
Under the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, 2,000 rupees is given to a farmer's family every 4 months. But as Professor Gulati tells me, there are massive leakages in the system and often just small fractions reach the families. There's contract farming and smarter exports. Some of it is happening. One instance is the potatoes that farmers in West Bengal are producing for PepsiCo. The other is of farmer organizations in the Sahyadri range in Maharashtra that are exporting their produce to 42 countries. but these examples are few and far between. Overall, the sector is crying for reforms. Productivity is much less than it should be because most farmers cannot afford adequate technology. Marketing is a mess. Greedy intermediaries claw as much as 3/4 of the price a farmer is supposed to get for his produce. There are government export controls and stocking limits, and there is a lack of adequate storage facilities in the country. To repeat a cliche, for a country so dependent on agriculture, the agriculturist is woefully neglected. It'll be interesting to see the government's renewed attempts, if any, at bringing in agricultural reforms. But India's farmer deserves to live better, and only time will tell if he does.
So, small farmers of India, 80% of the farmers of India have been producing food for millennia for Indians. And in this process of feeding the nation, the farmers are going hungry themselves. The farmer is, considering that 70% people in this country depend on one form or the other on agriculture, is very much the present and the future of the country. And any policymaker who understands, plans, and builds for it will be doing the right thing.
I will leave you with this serious food for thought. You were listening to Farm Law 2020, a tactical repeal, on the Morning Brief with me, your host, Anirban Chowdhury. Producers, Bhavya Dilip Kumar from the Economic Times and Varun Kapahi from Awaz. Sound editor, Swati Joshi from Awaz. Executive producer, Arjit Barman. All clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits are given in the description below.